In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, God is one. Amen. Well, good morning. I can see there are 3 or 4 of us here today. That's a nice start. And I can see somebody called Sybil. Good morning, Sybil. God bless you also. Right here, we're having a beautiful day. I don't know why, but suddenly everything seems to be sunshine, which is very nice. The last 2 or 3 days, nice and sunny. And today is going to be just the same. And at the moment, it's about 8 degrees out there. It was a nice cold frost last night. When I looked out of my window last night, I could see the planet Uranus. And apparently, all of the planets are going to be visible just after sunset tonight. I think you need to look south for that. I'm not really quite sure what to look for. Uranus is always very bright and very obvious. I've seen Jupiter and Saturn as well in the past. People tell me they're slightly different colours, but I have to say I can't tell that difference. There we go. Good morning, G. And Simon, good morning. Bev, good morning. Good morning, Athanasius, otherwise known as Ben. So that's good. Just a little reminder right to begin with, if you like this, then please put a thumbs up. And then even now, other people will be able to find it. We're in day 2 of Great Lent. Woohoo! In no time at all, we'll be singing Christ is risen. And tonight there will be services here, starting at 6 o'clock. Obviously, there's the look for a light in the sky. Planets might be there. It might just be Ben. Who can tell? Tonight we'll have great Compline with the Canon of St. Andrew. Tomorrow we will have the Liturgy of the Pre-Sanctified Gifts, which is an amazing, wonderful, beautiful service. One of my very top favorites. Although it's a little bit like saying so-and-so is my favorite saint. I tend to like them all. Today, what we're going to be doing right now is reading Acts chapter 22, verses 1 to 8. So let's crack on. Brethren and fathers, hear my defense before you now. St. Paul, if you remember, has been taken into custody by the Romans for his own safety. And also, as so frequently, they don't arrest the troublemakers, they arrest the person about whom they're making trouble. They're not so much interested in justice as in no goings on. Reminds me actually of somebody else just recently, somewhere over the pond. He seems to be blaming the victims and supporting others. But there we go, who can tell? Brethren and fathers, hear my defense before you now. But when they heard that he spoke to them in the Hebrew language, they kept all the more silent. Then he said, I am indeed a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, taught according to the strictness of our father's law, and was zealous towards God, as you are all today. I persecuted this way to the death, binding and delivering into prisons both men and women, as also the high priest bears me witness, and all the council of the elders, from whom I also received letters to the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring in chains even those who were there to Jerusalem to be punished. Now it happened, as I journeyed and came near Damascus, at about noon, suddenly a great light from heaven shone around me, and I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So I answered, Who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. So there we are. Oh, look. The Sasquatch Society. Bigfoot himself has got in touch. Good morning, Helia, as well. Happy Lent also to you in Cardiff. So we begin off, brethren and fathers, hear my defense before you now. As I said a moment ago, St. Paul has been taken into custody by the Romans, partly for his own safety and partly in order to just quell the riot, just make all that stop. But St. Paul has managed to get from the commander permission, amazingly permission, to speak to the angry crowd. He has asked them to go silent, and they have gone silent, and now he begins to speak to them in probably not in Hebrew, we'll come to that in a moment, but he begins by saying, brethren. Actually, in the Greek it says men, brethren, fathers. Okay, so everybody, my brothers, my fathers. Those people are more important than me. And that is an interesting thing because he's making himself one of them. Now, it's very difficult if you're in a crowd to throw stones at somebody inside that crowd. If you're a crowd, you can easily throw stones at somebody outside that crowd. That is no problem at all. But if you are within a crowd, you begin throwing stones at yourselves. This actually happened to me when I was about 22. At that point, I lived in Zambia in a little place called Mapanza. The kids there were having a riot in this school, and I was the only white person there at the time. I had gone to the staff room in order really to try and find out what was going on. And all the other teachers, both Indian and local, had run away. I was leaving me pretty well the only teacher within the school, and I was 21 and very definitely foreign. And I began seeing that they were picking up stones and things to throw at me when I came out of the staff room. Now, I couldn't climb out through a back window for a very simple reason. There wasn't one. And the only way out was either through the side door of the staff room or the main door of the staff room. And they were gathering around the main door. So I decided I looked in the crowd through the window, and I could see various chaps of my age. So they were my age mates. One of them called Simeon Mwetwi. And I opened the side door of the staff room and went into the crowd from behind. And then, of course, I was part of the crowd, and I was standing by Simeon, and I said to him, we're age mates, you must look after me. At which point, of course, in Zambia, being an age mate of somebody means you really do have a very strong loyalty to your cohort. So he also is 21. He called all the other 21-year-olds over, about 20 of them, and gathered them around me. And as a group, we all of us left as one group the area and left the school and went away, leaving the rest of the crowd until I was well out of the school. And then another friend of mine amongst the students took me to his mother's house until everything subsided. 3 or 4 hours later, his mother lived about 4 miles away, but just over an hour's walk through the bush. So St. Paul is doing something very similar here. He's saying, you know, we're all the same. We're all on the same side. Men, brothers, my superiors, fathers. Okay, so that's where we're going. Good morning, Miss Connie, or good evening to you. Kalisarakosti to you also, Christos. Have a good Lent. And Alea, God bless you also. So making himself one of them. And the word that defense is also very interesting. Is apologias, from which we get the word in English, apology. The original form of apology did mean a sort of defense, And that's why it is you can study Christian apologetics. Doesn't mean to say they're saying sorry for being a Christian. There's sometimes when I hear certain types of Christianity being preached, I certainly feel very sorry about that. It means you're offering an explanation. You're explaining what is going on. So, brothers and fathers, hear my explanation before you now. Verse 2, and when they heard that he spoke to them in the Hebrew language, they kept all the more silent. So they stopped talking completely. Now, like last week, the Greek is actually, it says, the Hebrew dialect. And the Hebrew dialect was not Hebrew, it was, of course, Aramaic. So he's speaking the home language of everybody. This makes it even more private and makes it even more obvious that he is talking to them as one of them, okay? I'm not just somebody from outside talking to you. I'm talking to you in your very own language. You see the way the St. Paul is underlining time and time again, hey guys, I'm one of you. Be nice. I'm part of you. And then they are even more attentive. He's underlying the fact that he's a local, and he's probably talking to them in the same accent as they speak around there. Rather like, let us say, you're going to get beaten up in London, and because they think you're a foreigner, and you start talking to them in a London accent, Cockney accent or something, or if you're in North London accent, then they're more likely to take notice of you than if you're talking in what would be a very foreign accent, like my own. Okay? That's one reason why it was going through the East End of London that I used to learn how to speak in a Cockney accent and imitate what they were doing. Otherwise, you could easily end up with the evening with fewer teeth than you began. All right, so he's underlining his localness. So how Jewish is he? Verse 3. Then he said, I am indeed a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, taught according to the strictness of our father's law, and was zealous toward God, as you are today. So, how Jewish is he? Number one, he says, well, actually, A, I am a Jew. B, I was brought up in Jerusalem. C, I'm a student of one of your most famous rabbis. Who would it be like now? I don't really know. Who is really famous? He's a British teacher. Can't think of anybody. That's a sad thing, isn't it? Anyway, student of the great Gamaliel. D, I'm a very strict and Orthodox Jew. And E, I was very zealous and am very zealous, just like you are. So he is really making it clear, I'm as Jewish as you are, not only that. Stephen Fry, that would be a good choice, yeah. Not only zealous, but just like you are zealous. Now, I know you're behaving like you are through your love of God. If you remember, they were willing to kill off St. Paul in the name of God until the Romans turned up, and then they thought, oh, well, the Romans are here now. Maybe that trumps God. Okay? Me, no Bev. Okay? Zealous, just like you. So it's a very clever way of getting on with that sort of thing. Okay? Verse the 4th. Help me if I could read. I persecuted this way to the death binding and delivering into prisons both men and women. Okay, so I persecuted this way. If you look at it in English, you'll see it's got a capital W. The way is, of course, Christianity. And you'll find earlier on in Acts of the Apostles it being called the way as well. And of course, as the Lord leaves Jericho, having healed blind Bartimaeus, he heads up towards Jerusalem, and it says the apostles followed him in the way. And this is a sort of a way of showing what we need to do as well, that we need to follow the Lord along the way, not walk next to him, certainly not lead him, but be his follower, even if it means going up to a hostile Jerusalem. The other thing about that you'll remember is the disciples are some way behind. And so the Lord went on ahead, maybe an hour or two ahead, and the apostles followed him, and they were frightened, it says. Okay, frightened. Good morning, Frank. God bless you and keep you. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful day as well. So what was he doing on this, persecuting this way? And it says to the death, not his death, but the death of those people that he is persecuting. So he is responsible for the death of some Christians. Certainly we know that he was approving of the murder of St. Stephen, and it looks here as though there could be other people that he had put to death as well. Both men and women, he was indiscriminate, and they were arrested and put in prison. So he is describing to them the same sort of zealotry as they have. They want to kill him off, and he's saying, I was just like you. I too wanted to kill off people who are believers in this way, just like you do. Okay? So there we go. Men and women in prison and arrested, or rather arrested and also in prison. Verse 5, as also the high priest bears me witness, and all the council of the elders, from whom I also received letters to the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring in chains even those who were there to Jerusalem to be punished. So his zealotry wasn't just hanging around Jerusalem and seeing whether somebody like St. Paul turned up. He was proactive in his zealotry, something that I often think that many of our church leaders are not nowadays. They are reactive, but it's important really for church leaders to be proactive, go looking for problems, go looking to do something new, go looking to improve the situation, and so on. And St. Paul is saying, and you can check on this if you like, pop down the high priest's house and knock on his door and say, that's Saul of Tarsus, remember him? Did you give him letters? Yes, you say, I gave him letters. That wicked brigand, that awful man, that traitor to the cause. So, yeah, you just said you did. Okay, not only the high priest, but also the Sanhedrin, the council of the people. And the letters themselves bear witness to St. Paul's zealotry, his Jewishness, his upbringing, and his training. So they can go and look him up if they want to. So he is saying, really, look, I was really highly regarded. I was highly trusted. I was the center of the operation against these Christians. That's my background. That's what I did. It's like somebody or other who might have changed from being, from one religion to another one, and saying, well, I was a great high priest in the great cult of Bagaluglia, where we worship Bagalugs. And this great worship of Bagalugs and Bagaluglia, I was a high priest, I was the center of it. And now, of course, I hate it with all my heart because I've become a Christian. So he's saying something along those lines. So he's not actually saying, I hate it. He's just saying, this is me. I'm one of you. And by implication, you can be one of us. Okay, so here's right at the very center, right trusted, right regarded, and right in the middle. Okay, and he was off to Damascus to bring into chains those people who were following the way there. I've always found this rather strange. I can understand the way the high priest and others might well have a certain amount of authority in their own land. But once you get out of those own lands, how do they have authority there? Maybe there's various things that they had in common with the people there. I don't know. Perhaps they had a sort of, like we have with some countries, a reciprocal arrangement that they can arrest our criminals and we will arrest theirs for them and then pass them over, extradite them to the other place. Anyway, St. Paul is off to do this. Maybe he was just simply kidnapping them. Who they can tell. Now, as it happened, as I journeyed and came near Damascus at about noon, suddenly a great light from heaven shone around me. So he's on the way to fulfill this mission. And that is important to the story. Saul was not expecting anything to happen other than arrive in Damascus, have lunch, have a nap, and go and kill folk, or at least go and arrest them, and then go back home when the job was done. So this was a surprise, not at all what he has expected. Midday, Damascus, not nighttime. He's not imagining things. He's not overtired. He hasn't eaten too much cheese before he went to bed, or drunk too much. Middle of the day. And in the middle of the day, and if you know what Damascus is like, you'll know the sun is bright enough to begin with. What happens? Suddenly, a great light from heaven shone around me. So this is far greater than the sunshine that would have been there. It is a light quite unlike the sun. And it's interesting the way he talks about it. He talks about it in Greek as a fitting, clear light. There's a specialness about this light, and the specialness about the way that it shone around him. So it's not a sunbeam breaking through a cloud. It is something quite different. It is an utterly blinding light, and it has a presence to itself as well as an entity in its own right. Not like the sun or the moon or the stars or anything like this. There's something different. And he does say, suddenly, quite out of the blue, as it were, this thing happens. So he's emphasizing several times over that this was to him completely unexpected. He was not thinking that something like this might happen. The reverse, as I said, he was expected to make it all the way to Damascus, check into the Ramada Hotel, or the Hilton or somewhere, have a nice lunch, followed by a nap, maybe some, I don't know, what would he have for lunch? All sorts of things I wouldn't mind having for lunch. Making my mouth water and thinking about the food I have eaten in Damascus in the past. Very nice. And what then happened? Verse 7, and I fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So, first of all, Paul collapses. Now, it's not really the same as doing a prostration. The way that he's talking about this, in the Greek, it is very much, I collapsed to the ground. I fell to the ground. It is not, I prostrated myself, head on the ground. I fell to the earth even. I dropped into the dust. This would be, that gives some of the force of the idea, probably. I dropped into the dust. And he hears this voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So the voice is unexpected, and he collapses as a result. And suddenly he discovers that he is not just persecuting the Christians, he's persecuting someone else, someone far greater, who identifies himself with his followers. So not just, why are you persecuting my followers? Why are you persecuting me? And you can see there's an entire universe of a difference between those two things. So if you persecute the church and the members of the church, you're also persecuting Christ. So probably better not to. 8. So I answered, who are you, Lord? Now that is so similar, isn't it, to what Moses said when he heard the voice. Moses, Moses, take off your shoes, you're standing on holy land, holy ground. And Moses says, well, who are you? And here the same question is asked by St. Paul, a sort of Moses to the Gentiles. And I think that Luke actually wants you to think that when you hear these words. This is a sort of new Moses being called. Who are you? And he said to me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, and whom you are persecuting. And this would have set the ears of all those people listening to him flapping wildly, because this is a name they knew very well, and a name that some 20 years before they had tried to get rid of. Somebody they did not like, and they had spent a great deal of time and effort trying to suppress his movement. And here we have somebody who was central to the entire business of getting rid of Christians, saying, I met him, and he said this to me. Who is this person? Jesus of Nazareth. So you can see the way that that is quite a big thing. So last week we left on a cliffhanger, and I'm going to leave on a cliffhanger today as well. The cliffhanger last time was that St. Paul said to them in Hebrew language, saying, da, 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 and now we have the Lord saying, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. And we'll carry on from that there, God willing, tomorrow, in the same way as before. Let us see if anybody has been saying anything, asking any questions or anything. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, hello Father, hope you're well. Please keep up your great videos. Well, that's very kind of you to say. If you like them, do a thumbs up. Christos said that, wishes everybody a happy Lent, good Lent. Simon suggests that Stephen Fry would be a good role model. He is in so many ways. Yeah, and it's very interesting. His atheism is born out of an experience of Christians who are thoroughly horrible. Zelda says, I'm trying to learn the way, but my ADHD makes concentration a struggle. Yep. You know, in all of these things, Zelda, you just have to do what you can do. There's no point, you know, there are lots of things you can do. In your ADHD, I used to teach lots of ADHD youngsters, and there are so many things about having ADHD that were so positive and good and exciting and rewarding for the person, for other people around them. And people with ADHD are never boring. You know, that is an important thing, really. So, but concentration is not your high suit. Never mind. Do something different. You don't have to concentrate all the time. Just say to yourself, I'm following the Lord in a series of big leaps. I'm going to dance up the road rather than just plod along it. And try and have that sort of feel. You might not be able to manage an hour of prayer. Never mind. You can pray in a completely different manner. You might not be able to read heaps of scripture. Don't worry about that. Just read for a few seconds. Just have a quick look. Drop into things. People with ADHD need lots of different changes of direction over a period of a day to maximize what they're able to do in that day. So do a bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of that, and that's fine. And if you do that, you'll find that you achieve a huge amount in that amount of time. Don't sit down for an hour to read a book. Sit down for a few minutes. As soon as your mind wanders, put that down, go and do something different. And don't beat yourself up over something you cannot help, because it won't do you any good, and it'll just frustrate you and make you irritable with yourself, and that won't help you or anyone else. Was saying Simon. God bless you and keep you. Okay, well, it's got to that period of the morning where we pray for people. So we're praying for the same custom as Nicholas. I saw a very upsetting video of him yesterday. He really is extremely ill, poor man. So please pray the Lord may make this section of his life short. Andreas, who is beginning to eat a bit more, Nicholas and Nicoletta, for Daniel, Hilary, Joseph, Simon, Christina, Carol, Andre, Georgia, June, Hector, and Angie, each of whom are pretty ill. Okay, and need our prayers and need our love, and it's good for them to know that we support them, we hold them before Christ in our hearts, asking for what is best for them. Okay? I'm looking forward to meeting in the flesh one of those people who comes to 10 at 10 and who's going to come and stay here in this parish during Holy Week. Isn't that exciting? For me, tremendously exciting. Zelda, yeah, God bless you. Don't worry about other people's expectations of you. Form your own expectations. You know, nobody knows you better than you know you, or that Christ knows you. He made you this way. This is the way you are. There are huge things, huge advantages to having things that are neuro-atypical, as people say nowadays. And each of them comes with a price, and each of them comes with a gift. Just like somebody or other who's highly intelligent, I mean, that's a great gift, but it comes with a great price, and that is with huge responsibility. Okay? Huge, huge responsibility. So if you're moderate intelligence like me, and a moderately functioning body, then you have much less in the way of worries than other people do. Christos says, a thought in your love. We keep hearing, do what you can, but the examples of saints seem to indicate they did much more than they could, which makes us, me at least, often a bit depressed. Quite right. It was Saint Anthony of the Desert, the father of monasticism, eking out his time in prayer in the Thebaid of Egypt, who said to his disciples this: the demons encourage you to take on more than you are capable of. I'm not sure he said it quite that way because that's horrible grammar. More of which you are capable, in order that when you fail, you will become disheartened. And therefore it's a good idea to decide exactly what you are capable of doing and then do that. And when you do it well, then decide to take on a bit more. so that you are improving. And that way, you will slowly make gradual steps towards perfection. If you think about St. John Climacus, he didn't say you take one great leap. He allowed you 33 smaller steps, which each of us probably seen quite big steps, but he allowed 33 steps. So, don't become saddened by not being a saint. It's like, that a Jewish Hasidic rabbi of the 1800s, I think 1700s, Rabbi Zosimas would say that when the time came to stand before the Lord would not say to him, Zosimas, why were you not Abraham? Zosimas, why were you not Jacob or Isaac? He'll say, Zosimas, why were you not Zosimas? And I think that is a really important thing to remember. There's one reason why it is, obviously, that within Orthodoxy, we have a spiritual father. We don't have a huge one-size-fits-all spiritual direction like some churches do. You go and talk to your spiritual father, or at least or maybe your spiritual mother. Some people have that instead, or as well. And this person helps you to determine what you should do in your spiritual life next. So in all matters of spiritual life, like the one that Christos has mentioned, you go and talk to your spiritual father and say, look, this is what I can manage. What do you think? And say, yes, you can do that. But instead of just reading the scriptures for 1 minute per day, why not try 1 minute and 10 seconds? And say, oh, I can manage 1 minute and 10 seconds. Bravo. Try that. And a week later you come back, or a month later you come back and say, Father, I can manage easily 1 minute and 10 seconds. Good, he says. What about 1.5 minutes? I say, oh, Father, I'm not quite sure about that. Okay, 1 minute and 20 seconds. Just 10 seconds more. Yes, Father, I can manage that. Bravo. You go and do that and so on. Okay, that's the way to do it. It's like eating an elephant. If you try and swallow an entire elephant in one go, you'll have problems. But on the other hand, if you cut it up into 1 million pieces, you won't even notice that you've eaten an elephant. And yet you will have done so. Okay, your prayers, God bless you and keep you. God willing, Bukra. It's my privilege, Christos. I hope everybody has a very good day today. And keep the whole thing secret, please. Don't in any way advertise any sort of fasting or anything like that. Even you might like to not fast, because that is better. Okay? Brick by brick, bit by bit, every day. Indeed, Simon. God bless you and keep you. Okay? Bye-bye. Thank you, Miss Connie, for that. All those precious people. Indeed, they are very precious.